You wake in darkness. The air tastes of oil and iron, thick with the ghost of incense burned too long ago. The stone beneath your back is cold, damp, and indifferent. Somewhere beyond the wall, laughter rings, distant, polished, cruelly careless. For a moment, you think it's for you. It never is. Before we step deeper into this hidden world of marble and shadow, take a breath. If history like this moves you, if you find beauty in tragedy and humanity in forgotten voices, join our growing circle of seekers. Leave a like. Tell us where you're watching from. Athens, Lahore, Sao Paulo, or somewhere between. It's strange, isn't it, that across thousands of miles and thousands of years, we're bound together by stories like this, stories that refuse to die. The tale of the male concubine begins not in a brothel or palace, but in the ideals of a civilization that worshipped beauty. To the Greeks, beauty was divine, an echo of the gods themselves. In the public squares of Athens, sculptors carved perfection from marble. Smooth flesh, serene faces, muscles caught in eternal grace. But behind every flawless form stood a truth less divine, that human beauty was something to be possessed. Within the courtyards of noble houses, young men, some slaves, others desperate sons of debt, were chosen for their faces, their forms, the light that seemed to linger on their skin. They were trained in poetry and restraint, taught to pour wine, to move gracefully, to speak when spoken to. The Greeks called them pais, a word meaning both boy and servant. They were living ornaments, the luxury of men who owned everything except innocence. Listen closely, and you can almost hear it. The soft strum of a lyre in the courtyard, the faint shuffle of sandaled feet on polished stone. A master reclines on his couch, his robe spilling like water, while a youth kneels beside him, pouring wine sweetened with honey. Their voices, low and measured, carry the strange tension of affection wrapped in power. "Do you love me?" the man might ask, a smile curving through the candlelight. "I live to serve you, Kyrios," the boy replies, careful not to meet his gaze. Love, in this world, is an arrangement of hierarchy. To be adored is to be owned. To please is to survive. The philosophers, too, played their part in sanctifying desire. Plato wrote of heavenly love, of souls recognizing themselves in one another through beauty. But in the shadows of that ideal, young bodies bore the weight of something far less spiritual. Many were taken from conquered lands, Thrace, Lydia, the islands of the Aegean. Their names replaced, their freedom erased. Outside, Athens sang of liberty. Inside, its houses whispered obedience. The paradox was complete. The same culture that birthed democracy also perfected domination in private. The same hands that sculpted gods into human form treated human beings as property. As time passed, the boy became invisible even as he stood before marble gods that looked like him. His body, once praised, began to betray him. A hint of beard at the jaw, a roughness in his voice. The house grew quieter around him. New laughter echoed from the hall, a higher, fresher voice. The master's eyes no longer lingered. When his beauty faded, his purpose followed. Some were sold again, some cast aside, some vanished into the streets, nameless among the free citizens who never saw them. No one carved statues for them. No one wrote epics in their honor. They were ghosts long before they died. But traces remain, in fragments of pottery showing banquets, in verses too tender to be merely philosophical, in the soft curve of a statue's cheek that seems to hold sorrow. The ancients never meant to remember these boys, and yet history has a way of keeping what's meant to be forgotten. Imagine standing now among the ruins of a Greek villa. The sea wind moves through cracked columns. The sun burns white against stone. Somewhere beneath your feet, there once was laughter, command, and obedience. Somewhere here, a boy dreamed of freedom in a language he was never allowed to speak. He would have seen the same sky we see, unchanging, eternal, indifferent. He might have whispered a prayer to Hermes, god of travelers, begging not for riches, but for release. And perhaps in that brief whisper he was free, if only for the length of a breath, because history is not just what is remembered. It's also what refuses to be silenced. The marble glows pale under the setting sun, and for a heartbeat, you could almost believe the statues are watching you, waiting for someone, at last, to speak their names aloud. You breathe in the scent of oil lamps and burning resin. The air is warm, heavy, and perfumed with something that almost hides the sour trace of sweat and sorrow. Somewhere in the distance, a lyre hums softly, each note a reminder that beauty here is both worshipped and wounded. You are not seen as a person, only as perfection, and perfection is a cage. Before we step into this silent world of marble and moonlight, take a moment to join those who refuse to let such stories fade. If you believe forgotten lives deserve to be remembered, if you feel history is more than dates and kings, lend your voice. Like this video, subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from, whether it's Cairo, Toronto, Manila, or Rome. Together we form a bridge across time, connected by empathy for those the world erased. The house is still, except for the whisper of silk against stone. A servant moves through the corridor bearing a jug of wine. Beyond the archway, a feast unfolds, voices low, laughter delicate and cruel. Candles flicker on polished bronze, shadows ripple across painted walls. The men recline on couches, their tunics spilling like water, while at their feet kneel the beautiful, the purchased, the silent. Among them, a boy no older than 17 pours wine for his master. His hair is perfumed with myrrh, his hands trembling as the liquid trembles in the cup. To the guests, he is art made flesh, flawless, obedient, untouched by will. But look closely and you'll see it. The faint tightening at the corner of his mouth, the flicker of thought he cannot afford to show. The Greeks celebrated beauty as divine. To them, the human body was a reflection of the gods, a living sculpture worthy of devotion. Yet devotion and domination often walked hand in hand. Philosophers spoke of eros, a love between men that was noble, spiritual, elevating. But what of the ones who had no choice? What of those whose beauty made them prisoners in houses of light and gold? In the cool courtyards of Athens and Corinth, power wore the mask of affection. Men of wealth kept their concubines as they kept their statues, polished, displayed, and admired. The boys were taught to sing verses of Sappho, to quote Homer, to serve with grace. They learned to smile when their hearts were breaking, to bow without trembling, to be adored without ever being loved. At night, when the revelry faded and the masters slept, the walls whispered a different music. Quiet sobs, the rustle of linen, the muted clink of chains disguised as bracelets. The moonlight carved their faces into marble profiles, beautiful even in despair. Somewhere beyond those walls the sea murmured, indifferent and eternal. "Do you remember your name?" one might whisper to another in the dark. A pause, then softly, "No." Time in such houses moved differently. Days melted into one another, banquets, orders, silence. Some of the boys dreamed of freedom, though most no longer remembered what freedom felt like. For them, life had become performance, and performance was survival. Even the philosophers, for all their talk of virtue, saw beauty as something to be possessed. Plato wrote of ascending from physical desire to pure love, yet the reality remained chained to the flesh. The ideal was immortal, the human cost invisible. Years would pass, and the once beloved faces would fade from favor. When the first wrinkles appeared, when the voice deepened, or the eyes lost their spark, the masters looked elsewhere. The discarded found themselves sold again, or simply released, to drift through the city like ghosts among men. Some turned to the temples, seeking sanctuary. Others vanished into alleys, their beauty spent, their worth forgotten. Still, the echo of their existence lingers. In the fragments of frescoes, we see their forms preserved. Young, delicate, forever silent. In poetry, they survive as metaphors for desire, never as people. And in the marble that endures, the perfection of their bodies remains untouched, while their souls are nowhere to be found. Imagine standing now in the ruins of that house. The floor mosaics glitter faintly beneath the dust, depicting gods who never heard their prayers. A breeze moves through the broken columns, carrying the scent of the sea. You can almost hear footsteps, soft and hesitant, moving through the shadows. Somewhere, the boy with the perfumed hair still waits, not for his master's voice, but for someone to remember that he once lived, once dreamed, once wanted to be more than beautiful. The candles have long burned out. The laughter has died. And in the silence that follows, the marble walls seem to breathe, as though the house itself remembers what the world chose to forget. You open your eyes to a world gilded by candlelight, where beauty is both worshipped and wounded. The scent of olive oil and crushed herbs fills the air, mingling with the faint trace of sweat on marble floors. You are admired, but never free. Loved, yet never seen. In this world, the same hands that praise you will one day cast you aside. Before we descend into this forgotten story of power and desire, take a moment to join the voices keeping history alive. If stories like this move you, if you believe truth should be felt, not just studied, leave a like and tell us where you're watching from. From Athens to Karachi, from Madrid to Seoul. We are proof that empathy has no borders. Together, we remember what time tried to erase. The age of Pericles, they called it. The golden era of philosophy, democracy, and art. But even golden ages cast long shadows. Behind the white columns of Athens, behind the painted vases and marble statues lived those whose names history forgot. The beautiful, the bound, the silent. Among them were the pais kalos, the beautiful boys, kept by men of wealth and intellect. To the world they were symbols of refinement, ornaments of desire framed as virtue, but to themselves they were contradictions made flesh, adored yet owned, cherished yet controlled. Their youth was their value, their body their only currency. Listen closely and you can hear the sounds of a symposium. Laughter, music, the soft clink of wine cups. A flute sighs through the air as smoke curls upward from a bronze lamp. On reclining couches, men debate love and wisdom, quoting poets and philosophers. Beside them kneel their attendants, the concubines, perfect, still, and silent. A philosopher raises his cup and says, "Beauty is the bridge to the divine." The boy refills his drink, eyes lowered. "Then why," the boy whispers, "must divinity always serve?" No one answers. The question dissolves into the hum of conversation, lost to history. To the Greeks, beauty was not merely aesthetic, it was moral, spiritual, even political. The body reflected the soul, they said. But this reverence blurred easily into possession. Love became a structure, a hierarchy. Teacher and student, master and servant, lover and beloved. The same culture that wrote of freedom built invisible cages around those deemed most beautiful. In their homes, the concubines lived under careful ritual. They were bathed, perfumed, adorned, and taught the arts of speech and song. Yet beneath the polish lay fear, the quiet dread of displeasing the hand that fed them. Every gesture became performance, every smile a mask worn for survival. And still, within the heart of bondage, humanity endured. Some boys found small rebellions in poetry, in stolen glances, in fleeting moments of tenderness exchanged beneath the stars. For even in chains, the human spirit searches for meaning, a fragment of self untouched by ownership. Time, however, is a cruel sculptor. The faces that once drew the gaze of poets began to fade, a shadow of beard, a deepened voice, signs that the boy was becoming a man, and, therefore, disposable. When beauty waned, affection evaporated. Some were sold, some sent away, some vanished without record. Their masters would weep at funerals for fallen soldiers, yet feel nothing for the souls who once warmed their beds. It is tempting to see ancient Greece only through its brilliance, the marble, the art, the ideals. But for every statue that survived, there were countless living beings turned to dust before their time. The perfection we admire was not born from purity, but from paradox. A society that adored form while ignoring the suffering within it. Imagine walking now through the ruins of an Athenian villa. The sea murmurs beyond the cliffs. The air hums with cicadas. The mosaics beneath your feet depict gods and heroes, immortalized in color. Yet if you listen closely, beneath the wind and waves, there's another sound. Softer, almost human. The echo of laughter that wasn't joy. The murmur of voices that were never written down. These were the voices of the beautiful forgotten, the ones who carried the weight of a civilization's ideal, but never its freedom. Their tragedy is not just ancient, it is timeless. The story of power and beauty, of love used as a weapon, repeats itself in every age. And as the sun sinks behind the Parthenon, the marble glows like bone under fire. The air still holds their silence, their unanswered question. Can beauty ever belong to itself?